So this weekend I took some time off of tracking the next major meteor strike to track one of the reasons why I'm ready for a catastrophic impact: Justin Trudeau. Yeah, so he actually ended up coming to Calgary after his office cited scheduling conflicts, but it was then revealed he had 3 personal days in a row booked and private meetings scheduled. So that just firmed up speculation that he was too scared to come because he forgot to mention Alberta in his Canada Day speech. But even he knew it would be a metaphorical middle finger not to visit the city's biggest event of the year, the Stampede, and especially at a time that Calgary is struggling with the highest unemployment numbers in the country. Now, for those that aren't familiar, this is basically a 10-day long party where the city celebrates our Western heritage with a big parade and rodeo and fair, and everyone dresses up in their best cowboy gear, and free pancake breakfasts and other themed events are held all across the city. It's a really fun time. Anyways, even though the oil and gas sector is struggling here, this visit was meticulously planned so that Justin only visited liberal safe spaces and avoided fed-up Albertans at all costs. First of all, his itinerary was released late Friday and was full of photo ops only, which means only a small fraction of people knew he'd even be here. I mentioned the 10-day party the Stampede brings to the city, and one of the most popular things to do is go to a free pancake breakfast. These are a PR haven for politicians where they get to show us how they're just like us, serving up pancakes and food to the common man. Of course, he planned both of his visits to the breakfasts in upper-class liberal voting neighborhoods, Marda Loop and Parkdale. Now, I don't care if people are rich, and I just love capitalism, but here's the thing. It's difficult for outsiders to get into these places because parking is limited, permitted, and timed. So of course I went to the Parkdale event, and it was obvious that they just wanted this thing to include Trudeau groupies. They cheered for him as he came out to serve pancakes. Have you taken a look at Trudeau's approval numbers here in Alberta? He's sitting at 36% according to this Main Street Post media poll. So obviously this outing was planned so that he could be treated to his regular celebrity-like welcome from his fan base. But he just couldn't escape the scrutiny even when he was amongst friends, even when his PR people worked so hard to keep these critics away. This homeowner that lives directly beside the community center where the breakfast was hosted was hanging out on top of his roof, patiently waiting to display this sign that read, "Trudeau, why don't you pay the widow's spear?" So you think Trudeau's approval numbers are low right now? Wait until we see how they look after this Cotter atrocity that has people on both sides of the aisle just absolutely disgusted. The next stop was the traditional Indian village at the Calgary Stampede. We all know how Trudeau just loves to use First Nations communities to virtue signal, so this was yet another public safe space for him. It's $18 to get in, by the way. You think a laid-off oil worker is going to spend that kind of money just to give the PM the what for? This was clearly yet another strategy to limit exposure to Trudeau. Anyway, at this stop, he spent about 20 minutes on what's becoming his signature teepee timeout and worked through a crowd of giggling schoolgirls and refugees that named their babies after him. Seriously, these were yet again the people that were there as fans to see Justin Trudeau Disney Prince, not Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister. There wasn't a single boo to be heard, and no criticism was uttered directly at him. Actually, I heard a couple of teens in the lineup talking about seeing musician Usher in a jewelry store on the grounds, who then proudly displayed photos and gushed about how they were going to add selfies with Justin Trudeau to the collection. But just when I thought the cover-up was over, when Trudeau was on his way out towards the gates of reality, where the general public awaited, where the response to the PM would be more unpredictable, this show band assembled kind of haphazardly, I'm assuming to muffle the sounds of any real critics that might be waiting. But once again, there's just no hiding how disliked our Prime Minister is here in Alberta. even with a seemingly well-crafted plan to minimize scrutiny.
Are you sure you're in Alberta?
And then it was off to the rodeo for Trudeau, where his presence wasn't announced, probably since he was heavily booed at last year's event. This visit was so obviously crafted for Trudeau to show that he's well liked in Alberta to the rest of the country and to the world. And in his mind, it was a success. I mentioned that he only scheduled photo ops originally, but he did end up speaking to the press later when he felt safe enough to do so. There's just no way he could let his ego suffer a blow over that forgetting Alberta thing. He had damage control to do. He didn't come here to support the economic engine of the country that's suffering as a result of the economy and 3 levels of incompetent government, including the federal Liberals. He came here for Justin Trudeau. Only here in Alberta do we know how much this Prime Minister is hated, and that doesn't translate in photos and softball news stories. But I was there, and I heard that frustrated Calgarian yelling over the band, even though maybe Trudeau and the mainstream media didn't. And now you have too. For the Rebel.media, I'm Holly Nicholas. Have you heard about our fundraiser for the Spear Kids? We're trying to raise $1 million for them after their dad was killed on the battlefield by convicted terrorist Omar Cotter, who Justin Trudeau and the Liberals just made a multi-millionaire. Please check out the campaign at spearkids.com for more details and to donate. And for those that already have, thank you so much for your support.